Hey, this is Nick Milvoy,
And this is Jason Shadrick.
and this is the 100 Guitarists podcast, where each week we're talking about one of the 100 guitar players that we think you should know. Jason, who are we talking about today?
We are cheating today. We are talking about Metallica. Therefore, Kirk James, maybe Mustaine. You know, we'll see how it goes. But today's all about Metallica.
All right. Well, before we get into it, we want to remind everybody that you can reach out to us. Hit us up, 100 Guitarists. That's 100 Guitarists at premierguitar.com. Or shoot us a text. Leave us a voicemail. The number is 319-423-9734. And if you're watching this on video and you love audio podcasts too, don't forget to head over to wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a subscribe.
Apple, Spotify, we're everywhere.
All the spots.
So, not surprisingly, today's sponsor is EMG Pickups. And EMG Pickups is giving everybody who listens to and watches this podcast a special deal that if you use the code EMG100, you will get 15% off at checkout. EMG Pickups started in California in 1976, before either Nick or I were even born. Rob Turner over there, he invented active pickup technology. And active pickups, they offer low noise benefits consistent across any stage or studio.
EMG pickups have been used by artists such as David Gilmour, Prince, Steve Lukather, Living Colour, Judas Priest, Zakk Wylde, Slayer, Les Claypool, and of course, Metallica. EMG solderless wiring kit comes with any new pickup and makes it easy to install on your own without the need for any special tech or any sort of wiring guru. They also offer great customer support for their products. Don't forget, use the code EMG100 for 15% off at checkout.
All right, so today we're taking a different approach with Metallica. Instead of going like a chronological thing, what we decided to do is Nick and I are each going to pick one track from every studio record. And I think the one exception will be Lulu. That's going to get its own moment in the sun. So
Spoiler
Nick and I are
alert.
going to each pick one track from every Metallica studio album. So, Nick, first of all, give me kind of a brief overview about where your fandom with Metallica was before this podcast.
Okay, so my fandom with Metallica, I think because of my age, it's like I came into Metallica as I was coming into developing music tastes, and that's with the Black Album. And so that's where I first heard Metallica. We're talking Sad But True, Enter Sandman, like those things were on, and that's how I learned who Metallica was, and then expanded from there. So it's like, I feel like, you know, any band that's been around as long as Metallica have, any band with these long careers, it's like your sweet spot is often where you came into it. Or, you know, maybe that shifts a little bit and you develop a sweet spot. For me, that's my sweet spot of Metallica. But, you know, as you know, Jason, I was a longtime guitar lesson teacher. And for me, it's like I have a very deep knowledge of a lot of these songs because over the years, you know, about 20 years of teaching guitar lessons, I've taught, you know, so much of Metallica's catalog, and it's like I can listen to these things, and even stuff that I've never listened to on my own is just like so deeply embedded in my head and somewhere in my fingers. But that gives me brought something up that I was thinking about. You've also given your share of guitar lessons.
Mm-hmm.
If you're holding a guitar and somebody says to you, play a Metallica song, what's the song you play?
Sandman.
Okay. For me, it's Master of Puppets. So even though Black Album is my sweet spot, it's like that's probably the song. I mean, Sandman might be the song I've taught the most, but like Master of Puppets is, I don't know, the one I've probably like done the deep dive on the most, or maybe that's just what I've become attracted to.
So how do you tell me you're a Stranger Things fan without telling me you're a Stranger Things fan?
Yeah, right. I was very pumped for that, you know, when that had a feature in Stranger Things, for sure.
Cool. Have you seen them live?
I've never seen Metallica live. they once played a free concert in Philadelphia at the Spectrum, but it was on a school day. I had friends who went. I was 13. I wasn't allowed to go.
What year are we talking?
But that was like, I can't remember. I didn't look this up, and I can't really remember. I think it was when they announced Load. I think it was like pre-gaming the release of Load. Though that came out in the summer. That doesn't sound right. Somewhere around that period. But yeah, and just to go back to what you were saying, what you asked me is like, where's my Metallica fandom? I would say that also my fandom drops off at Some Kind of Monster. Like, that's where I stopped paying attention and, really, I've heard every Metallica release since then in some way, but it's like, it's where it stopped, like, connecting with me. And going back to this podcast, I found a lot of nice stuff in there. I also found stuff that wasn't so nice.
Right.
How about you? Tell me have you seen Metallica play?
Seen him a couple times. The most impressionable one was on the Load or Reload tour. I can't remember which one, but they put out a live DVD video called Cunning Stunts, which that was the show I saw.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
the thing about that show was it was in the round, and the end of the show has a lot of shenanigans happening. Things are falling apart. A crew member was lit on fire and fell off the side of the stage. Like this very, like, everything's falling apart. Everything's going wrong, right? And my mom picked me up after the show. And I was like, oh my gosh, something happened. Because this was before the internet. You didn't know they were doing this every night.
Yeah.
So
they fooled you. It worked.
Completely. I was a dum-dum. Completely. I was like, wow, that might have been the last Metallica show ever. I mean, I remember they come out with the house lights all on. Like, house lights all on. They just come walking out. And In the Round was super cool. I think that was probably 95 when I saw them, 95, 96. Korn and Corrosion of Conformity opened for them. Wow. I'd heard of Korn before, hadn't heard of COC before.
97 is when the video was recorded. May 9th and 10th, 1997.
Okay, then this was probably 96. Because when I got around to seeing that video, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. They did this every night. This dude lit himself on fire every night. I mean, it was nuts. So yes, I've been probably a bigger Metallica fan than you since then, but agreed after Reload, going into Saint Anger, Death Magnetic, Hardwired even, dipped a bit, picked back up at 72 Seasons. I checked back in with Metallica on this last one. I'm like, we're back, fellas, we're back. So with that all out of the way, first record, studio record, Kill 'Em All.
You go first.
You go first. No, you go first.
Oh,
you
I
go
called
first
it.
on this one. Okay, I'll go. That's fine.
Well, because I have two. I need you to pick one, so I picked the
Whiplash. Whiplash. Here's
Not
the thing.
One of my choices.
Whiplash from the deluxe box set recorded 10/31/83 in Palo Alto, California.
This is how we're gonna start this.
You got to go left turn. Here's the thing I do like on Kill 'Em All, Lightning, Puppets, Justice, and Black Album. So those 5 records, they put out these massive deluxe box sets. Neil Young would be so proud. Neil Young would be like, way to go, boys. There's like 120 tracks on every one of these box sets, right? Multiple. On one of these, there's like just riff tapes, just horrible sounding riff tapes of Kirk and James, and It's incredible. So to me, I think Whiplash is the song from that record, but I'm going with the live version that was on the deluxe box set.
We're casting a wide net here. You're gonna go for the deep cuts like that. I'm just gonna pick the hits, man. Jump in the Fire. I don't know. It was a tough choice for me between Seek and Destroy and Jump in the Fire.
Yeah.
These are classic guitar lesson songs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is classic repertoire here. But for me, Jump in the Fire rips a little bit harder. The second solo on that song blazes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is for me.
All right. Whiplash. All right.
Yeah.
Then we go to Lightning. I'm going with their first ballad hit, Fade to Black. Now, neither one of us were around and consuming, or consuming, we were both around, I guess, but consuming the Metallica, those early ones in real time. But I wonder what, like, if you come out and they just dropped Kill 'Em All, and you're like, oh, I can't wait for the second one, and then they drop Fade to Black, and you're like, oh, okay, this is not going to be akin to like an AC/DC catalog, where AC/DC just makes
Right.
good versions of the same album
over and
30
over again.
times, right? They have some. This shows that they have some depth to their songwriting, to their instrumentation. You get some acoustic stuff. That intro solo on Fade to Black is an all-time solo. All-time solo. All right,
Yeah,
what do you
I'm
got
with
for
you.
Lightning?
I think there's no wrong answer on Ride the Lightning. It's all killer, no filler. Every song
Yes.
is the best song. For me, that's the one, probably.
Fade to Black.
No, that album. But song-wise, For Whom the Bell Tolls, it's just riff galore. Every riff on that song just
Cliff's finest hour.
rushes. What'd you say?
Cliff's finest hour, For Whom the Bell
Oh,
Tolls.
man. His riff is just chugging along, and then the guitars join in, and it totally just, like, pummels the song. But it keeps going. Those riffs keep developing. I want to say that it might be some of the best Metallica riffs are on that song. The harmonized lead stuff on there also really rips.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I think compositionally that one really does it for me throughout the whole Metallica catalog.
So we're entering the last remnants of Mustaine's contributions to the band.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your service, Dave. We will see you in therapy shortly. So yeah, I mean, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Fade to Black is classic, right? All right,
Master
next
Puppets,
up,
1986.
Not even Puppets, Master Puppets. That's the track. To me, what I love is that these tracks are so long. Like, there's so many parts. Like, compositionally,
Yeah, Master
these
Puppets
cats,
is 8 minutes and 36 seconds.
There's 3 banging singles in Master of Puppets alone.
Yeah.
Right? They could not write enough songs to contain all the riffs they were writing. They're like, oh, we have these 12 amazing riffs. Let's drop them all in one song.
Yeah.
One song. And that's Master of Puppets. Other honorable mentions, I saw a recent video of them doing Welcome Home Sanitarium live.
So
Blazing.
that I believe this was tough for me, this album, because Master of Puppets is, like I said, that's the one I'm holding a guitar, you say, hey, play me a Metallica song.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody wants to tip me $100.
Now, which
and
riff?
have a guitar.
Which of the 27 riffs in Master of Puppets you playing? Bam,
Top riff.
bam, bam, bam. That one.
Yeah.
Or
That part. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You ever try to play it with jazz phrasing? It almost sounds like "In the Mood" by Glenn Miller. If you do it that way.
I saw a video on Instagram of somebody doing it with surf, like a surf tone and surf vibe. It's pretty cool. It works.
Yes.
That's my vibe, man. But okay, so it's like, I think that is one of their best songs, but I also want to make sure that I point out that I think maybe like if you pick Master Puppets, so I'll pick Sanitarium, because to me that is this specific archetype in the Metallica catalog.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, it's a more sophisticated tune than their other stuff. Like compositionally, just like the vibe of it, the tones, like they're reaching for something with that one. And I always thought that main riff sounds like Andy Summers playing Diary of a Madman by Ozzy Osbourne. It's like some combination of those two things. You can put on some chorus and get an Andy Summers tone on and play a Sanitarium riff, and it sounds like Andy Summers. But it's like that whole Randy thing that he does in Diary of a Madman too. So, but I just love that riff. That's stuff that I like. But the way that like has this beautiful opening, that riff is awesome, and it's, to me personally, sometimes when they do this ballady, like epic ballad thing, it can get a little bit cheesy. I do not think that it gets cheesy at all in this song. I think that this song is like a perfect Metallica ballad. I think it's the perfect Metallica ballad. I would say it's their best one. It transitions from the clean part into the heavy part like perfectly. The guitar harmony like takes it up to the next level. It's like that perfect amount of spice, and it's just like that gives it this dramatic arc that is like unparalleled in their catalog. So for me, that's the one. But it's like, is that a better song than Master of Puppets? No, they're equally iconic and awesome.
All right. Agree to disagree. All right. You're going to go first. We have And Justice for All. You're going to go first on this one.
Everything I just said about
Don't do it.
Sanitarium,
Don't do it.
I'm doing it.
Okay.
Because this is guitar teacher repertoire. I can't, like, when I listen to this album, one has it just weighs more than the rest of the album for me. So preparing for this, I listened back to the album. I was like, I have to pick something other than one, especially if I'm picking Sanitarium. I can't. I really can't. It's another one that is just like this perfect, super simple riff up front. And then Kirk's melody part is just like, all of this stuff is so just embedded in not just, me personally, who I am as a guitar player, but also like who people who took lessons from me and wanted to learn these songs are. And just like, not just people of our generation, people younger than us. Like, it's so iconic. And I think it's the one for this album for me. Blackened has a great riff. That was second place for me, but it doesn't quite hold the weight.
Okay. So, And Justice for All, we gotta say this is the first album allegedly that Jason Newsted played on.
Allegedly.
And we say that
Somebody's gotta prove
because
that one to me.
it's our boy Jason. Just it's hard to hear him on this, and not because of the quality of playing, because it's just the mix is hard to hear.
Just a notoriously bad sounding record.
Yeah, which I wish was a mistake they only made once, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going the title track, And Justice for All.
Awesome.
I like Metallica. I don't think has ever been labeled a prog metal band. No, right? But they certainly at times make a case in some ways that you could be fooled. I mean, they got a 9-minute 46-second song on here. You could definitely tell this was the CD era, because they're like, we have all the space in the world. Let's
go.
Fill it up. Let's go, right? So to me, I really like, maybe they're Secret Fish fans, I don't know, but I really like the long, they're not. I really like the long composed, harder songs. So for me, the track on here that I keep coming back to is And Justice for All. Of course, we all love one. And honorable mention, I'd throw in Harvester of Sorrow.
Okay. Can't argue with those. Also, To Live Is to Die is also 9 minutes and 49 seconds.
Yeah, that was just a bit too long for me.
It's
I
3
topped
seconds
out at
too long.
9:40. That's just a bit too long. I couldn't hang for those last 3 seconds. All right, keep it going. We're off to the big one.
Here's the question. Before we pick our favorites from the Black Album, I think that this is a point where metalheads and, like, I want to say more casual Metallica fans, like, this is where we separate. What's your stance on the Black Album?
I love it. It's their best album. Has their best riff on it. Has their best song on it. I think I really kind of delved into it more when the most recent reissue came out.
Okay.
A couple years ago. I believe it's like 14 CDs and 6 DVDs. Like, it's, again, Neil Young, Grateful Dead level of material for a release. So when I did that, and then they had that tribute record, The Black List, right? Where there's like 4 versions of every song on here by anybody you can imagine.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Which is a lot. I found that, like, on paper, that probably sounded more cool than usual. Although Jason Isbell's take on Sad But True is pretty ripping. So that kind of circled me back to this record and listening to a lot of the non-singles. So for me, the track on this, best riff, best song, Sad But True.
I'm with you, man.
I
feel the same way. To me, I don't know if, like, looking back on this album, I say it's I think it's the best Metallica album. I might say that Ride the Lightning. I think I already said that 5 minutes ago. I think Ride the Lightning might be, in my opinion, the best Metallica album. But like, I'm not one to say anything bad about the Black Album. I think that this is a perfect album. I think that haters are going to hate. And yes, it is like commercial rock Metallica, and it was the beginning of all things. The people who don't like that element of Metallica, like this is the beginning of it. But for me, I spent so much time with this record, and I've learned so many of the songs. I've taught so many of the songs. Coming back to it now, listening to it this week, like it doesn't sound stale to me. This sounds like huge, awesome, perfect. The riffs are so well crafted. Sad But True is the one for me. I think that's the best one. Since you picked that, I'll say that Wherever I May Roam is a little bit cheesy. That electric guitar stuff in the beginning maybe is a little bit cheesy, but that's like in my gut somewhere I go. Don't Tread on Me is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Enter Sandman is of course awesome, but how do you even talk about that? Like how do you talk about that being the best song? You can't talk about that being the best song. It's no, it's its own. That's its own thing.
Yeah, Sad But True. I remember so distinctly when I saw them in '96 or whatever. When he started ripping that riff to Sad But True, the place went bananas.
Yeah,
like that might have gotten the biggest reaction of the night with Lars. Ba, 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 boom, bam, bam, bam. And it's so like slow and grindy, and you're like, dang, that's Sad But True.
And I would say that something specific about that is like the mid-tempo thing that they do on that song. It's like that becomes this thing. I mean, not that they never played mid-tempo songs before, but that's like something that a lot of Metallica songs that follow do have like this mid-tempo feel that I think is similar. And other times I can really at times feel like it's a little too heavy-handed. They're just leaning into it too hard. Like it becomes this trope that's a little worn out. Here, it feels awesome. It feels fresh. It feels even kind of spooky. There's this bendy out of tune thing that Kirk does.
Yeah.
Right behind the pre-chorus. That's like, I hadn't thought about this too much before, but it's like, it's kind of spooky. I like that about it.
And it's, to me, it's such a good track that not even Kid Rock could ruin it. I mean,
I've never listened to that, and I never will.
Yeah, he sampled it for some horrible track.
Yeah.
All right. Now we get into the real
controversial,
spicy part of the discography, which I will tell you right now, this was the first Metallica record I bought. I'd only been playing guitar for 6-8 months at this point. I liked it. I was into it. But the riff for me is King Nothing. King Nothing.
Yeah.
It's their first record. I remember going to get the tab book, and there's their first record they tuned down half step.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think I read somewhere it was more like Kirk was really into Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and so he spent a lot of time tuned down a half step, and I think that could have influenced it all. But at the time, I didn't know anything about that. But the riff to King Nothing, you know, it's happening. I thought about Outlaw Torn. Oh, the intro riff to Ronnie, very underrated. That almost sounds like a Telecaster to me. I bet you it's a Telecaster.
I remember some of the hype around this in one of the guitar magazines.
Oh my God, they cut their hair. Oh no.
That were around this. Well, the hair cutting thing was definitely part of it. But in guitar magazines, talking about them using different guitars. They weren't using just ESPs anymore. You know, there's Strats on here. There's SGs on here, I think. Stuff like that. That was part of the story of this album. The hair cutting thing. So I revisited a video from the MTV Video Music Awards and watched them play this with their haircuts. And I thought I was going to feel like, that's such a silly thing. And then I'm like looking at them with their haircuts, or that silly criticism, like that silly hype around it. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, they wanted people to talk about their hair. That was part of this story that they wanted people to talk about. They come out and they're like, I think that's what's so cheesy about these albums is like, whatever the case may have been, say the Black Album. I mean, they were huge, gigantic rock stars. The Black Album came out. I was 8 years old and I knew about the Black Album. Like, so they were not this was not underground rock. This was not like deeply authentic, like thrash metal anymore. This was mainstream pop music. So all of the things that go along with pop music, I'm surely were the case, but they had a look that was consistent with the way they used to look.
Yeah.
Load, they definitely consulted stylists. They coordinated their looks. They coordinated their outfits. They coordinated their haircuts. Looking back on it now, it looks stupid and ridiculous to me. And I get the criticism from the time now as an adult. Like, come on, guys. This is so cheesy looking. But that's show business, right? Like, they were just so big and so popular, and this is just what they were doing.
See,
that said... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're going to finish your thought. Go ahead.
Well, that said, Until It Sleeps rips. I stand by that song. I think that that's a great song. That's the song they play on the Video Music Awards, introduced by Dennis Miller, who was the host that year. I think it's great songwriting. The song has a good arc. Production-wise, there's some cool stuff going on. There's this, whammy bar reverb thing that's kind of surfy. To me, it's like, I don't think that they were thinking about like surf music or, any of the Link Ray or something. But I do think that maybe like, if everything is as, calculated as I think it is, it's like, it kind of sounds like Chris Isaac, it sounds like that sort of surfy thing behind James's.
Let me explain Load and Reload to everybody.
Okay.
Now that I've had a couple decades...
Defend one of the least popular albums.
Oh, no, I don't know about that.
Albums.
I like it. King Nothing's jam. Until It Sleeps, worst possible choice for a lead single after the Black Album. Worst possible one. However,
I dig it, man.
Here's how I see these two albums together, is that they broke through with the Black Album. They and then they went and they spent their inheritance foolishly. Right? I'm glad these exist. They brought in fans like me, who then expanded to the rest of their catalog. But Load and Reload could have been one record.
Load and Reload not only could have been one record,
it should have been one record, right? I think it sounds.
This was not Use Your Illusion. I mean, we'll get to talking about Use Your Illusion. I feel like they could have also been one record, but
right.
This was not like we need to release both of these in the same. Like, they should have learned a lesson here.
Because
one album.
So Load came out June of '96. Reload came out November '97. Right. There was talk of this being a double record, which, okay. I mean, but then you think Load still sold over 5 million copies, and both of them did over 5 million. So, I mean, that was more different music business back then. But, yeah, if I almost feel like we go back to Metallica and we're like, fellas, let's put out a new version of Load and Reload, but make it just one 12-track record. It would be, put it out in '96, it would be slamming. It really would. There's just a lot of extras. Load is their longest studio record. There's a lot of extra stuff on this record that was hit or miss. This I feel like was probably their most experimental time in their catalog, these two records. They'll forever be... I was really kind of disappointed that they called the next one Reload. I'm like, oh. And then I thought, is this like EP? Is this like an EP? Like, I didn't quite get it when it first came out, and then all that. But, so did you already... You said your song for Load. So Reload.
Yeah.
There's only one answer for this. Go.
You're not going to like my answer then.
I'm not. It's probably Where the Wild Things Are or some shit.
I'm picking... In order to find a song on Reload that I think is the best, I have to pick half of two different songs. That's how I feel about Reload. I'm picking 50% of Memory Remains, I don't think that's a good song. But the Marianne Faithfull part is cool to me. That I thought was awesome when it came out. Listening back to it, it's a little overwrought, but it's probably the coolest thing on any of those Metallica records from this point on or something. No, not from this point on.
No,
But
no,
from this
no,
point
no,
for
no,
a while. And Unforgiven 2, I do
my
not think
gosh,
they should have touched Unforgiven 2 again, or Unforgiven again. This is so cheesy, but I'm all in with this song until James sings, or Are You Unforgiven 2? Come on, man.
Come on, man. No.
Come on. Don't say the 2 of the title in a clever way. But Kirk's B-Bender riff is rad. It adds flavor. I think it is a cool production choice. And because of that, I count this for 50%. So there's my 250%. I don't think either one is a good enough song, though.
Fuel. Fuel is like, when I heard Fuel's like, all right, this feels like Metallica again. I mean, even to this day, when James spits out that first lyric, the place goes crazy. Like, Fuel is the track. I see. So with this imaginary single record of Load and Reload coming off the Black album, if Fuel was the first single, this album would have sold 3 times as many copies.
Can I actually, you know what? This is a situation where I'm going to say I'm convinced. I'm just playing it fast and loose here. Fuel is on here. Fuel is a better song than either of those 2 songs.
Yes, of
I
course.
want to agree with you. You're right. Fuel.
I mean, it has an awesome riff, right? It's high energy. It has some experimental parts of it, but yet it still feels like Metallica. Like,
it's actually genuinely a cool song.
I feel like coming from the Black album and then releasing Until It Sleeps.
Like that
and
song.
The intro on
I don't think
Sleeps,
it should have been. No, it should not have been the lead single. But
the intro on
really
Until It Sleeps is like snore. Like what? Dude. The chorus is cool, but like the intro just didn't have the energy to be like, oh, this is our.
But I
first,
think that's why they chose it, right?
You know, our first album in 5 years, and here's Until It Sleeps. You're like, oh, I was just over here listening to Sad But True all day, you know. So. What did you even pick one on Reload, or you did? Yeah,
I was picking half of each of those songs.
I already blocked out.
I've
already blocked out
about those,
what you said.
Fuel is the right answer.
I totally immediately forgot you said about Marianne Faithfull's once you said it.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Here we go,
Getting
man.
Spicy.
Get ready.
Trying to remember, something came up recently. I was listening to a podcast and they mentioned this record. And before we even started preparing for this, I went back and listened to it. I was like, huh, okay. So many questions. Okay. So we got the
You don't have to have any questions because they document it and released all of it. They're all of the answers are there.
All of the answers are there.
Because they felt the need to document every part of this excruciating recording process and looked at it at the end after everything was concluded, said, yeah, let's put that out. Unbelievable.
So this is the Some Kind of Monster record.
This is,
right?
And it is Some Kind of Monster.
This is the Some Kind of Monster record, which, if you have not seen Some Kind of Monster, just watch it. It's one of the great all-time music documentaries, and I will stand by that.
Spinal Tap?
It's
Spinal
up there.
Tap is the mockumentary. Best mockumentary, and this is right behind
This is the real version of that. This is the real version of that.
Oh man,
it
feels
friends.
Cliche. I felt like man, it's kind of cliche to talk so bad about Saint Anger. Let me find something I can like.
No, I got something I like about it.
Let's go.
So
help me.
So first of all, Some Kind of Monster. I have friends who have watched that movie 100 times. Oh man, I have friends who host podcasts affiliated with Premier Guitar who have watched that movie hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Can quote you, has merch based on catchphrases from that movie.
Oh, right? What catchphrase?
Delete that. So to me, I'm going to give you the high and the low. The high of this record is the title track, Saint Anger. I think that's a cool song.
Oh, that's a bad high, man.
look,
I like
this
Saint
is
Anger for 1
we're
minute
dealing
and 15
with
seconds.
we're dealing with a limited
Oh, I
range
get it. I
here,
get it.
right? The high on this record is Saint Anger. It's a good set. I mean, there's tracks that are 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Like, these guys do not care, and for good reason. They have earned it. 3-minute song, nope. We're doing what we want to do. So that's the high. The low is that flippin' snare sound that has been covered ad nauseum. I know people online have even
Again,
fixed
cliche to even talk about it, but you can't.
but you
ignore
gotta
it.
hear it.
Yeah.
If you've never heard the snare on Saint Anger, like,
It feels like a cartoon. Like, the sound is so weird. It doesn't sound like real life 3-dimensional humans made this record. It sounds like a cartoon making metal.
I'm like, Bob Rock, you're basically the 5th member of the band. You've done amazing work with them. What was it like in the mixing where you're like, or engineering or whatever, you're like, nailed it.
It often doesn't even sound like a snare drum.
It sounds distant and weak, and it's I don't know. This, I can't wait until the deluxe box set of Saint Anger comes out with 111 tracks. 3 of those should be Bob Rock explaining himself. I mean, just let us know, and then fix it, and then just fix it, and we'll all be this album would be 30% better with that fixed snare sound. That's how much that snare sound is bad. That's how bad that snare sound is.
I think that if you made the snare drum more realistic, this album would be worse, because that gives you something to focus on and blame.
No,
if that snare sound sounded like a regular snare, and every time you hit Lars hit it was like pop, right? If you actually heard it, then you couldn't blame that, and you'd just talk about how bad the songs are. So, Saint Anger, the song, kind of awesome for the first minute and 15 seconds, and then James does his rap rock thing and says, you flush it out, as if he's in Limp Bizkit. Dude, what?
Man, we gotta sell tickets. Buddy.
I don't think they sold any tickets with that line.
I'm
going to say they didn't sell tickets.
They were an incredible live band, because they know the live show isn't going to be just them playing Saint Anger front to back. I mean,
True.
So yeah. So are you even going to offer up a track on this?
Yeah, the first minute and 15 seconds.
Like Saint Anger. Perfect. I'm glad we're in agreement. Let's quickly move on.
Chorus is kind of cool.
Death Magnetic. All right. So now it's 08.
5 years have gone by since
that's right.
Saint Anger, and they definitely learned some lessons.
Trujillo is actually in the band now. He's recording.
And they're working with Rick Rubin and not Bob Rock.
So, to me, the track on this is All Nightmare Long.
Yep. I'm with you. That's my choice too.
Yeah, that was my choice. That is like quintessential Metallica. Like, again, it feels like Metallica. That's like almost like the AC/DC test. You can't play me one song in AC/DC's entire catalog that doesn't feel like AC/DC.
Yeah, this song sounds like Metallica. Totally. It's great. It has great thrashy riffs, especially with the really fast stuff that they do. That's like, it feels like classic Metallica. You can sit this alongside their best albums, and you hear it.
I'm surprised you didn't pick Unforgiven 3.
So, in our life, there's going to be an Unforgiven 4, right? Like, you can't trust these guys not to do it.
There has to.
They're going to do Unforgiven 4. Somebody needs to put a stop.
At this point, I would do it just as a lark.
They have to. Somebody should put a stop to it, but also from their perspective, they absolutely have to do. I mean, they should keep going as long as they can with Unforgivens every couple albums.
I played a lot of Guitar Hero Metallica in my day, and All Nightmare Long was a classic move in the Shadrick household.
I will say that there's something, it's like, as much as I said that song sits alongside their best stuff, at this point, after what they just went through, after Saint Anger, after Load and Reload, they're coming back to that music, but it's still a little bit, they haven't aged the right way. They haven't learned the right lessons through those. So it's like, even on this song, James sings, he sings, your luck runs out. like that, right?
Classic.
And it's like, man, come on. You have to know that that's you just like he's just like leaning into just sounding like a caricature of himself. And
Right.
I struggle. That's what I struggle with on this album is him sounding too much like he's doing James Hetfield instead of just like being himself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like he's copying his own thing, and like the vocals kind of kill it for me at times. It's not everything he sings on this album. Like some of it's just fine, and they sound like a real band again. But sometimes James's voice just sounds a little cartoony. All Nightmare Long, I just want to add that Kirk's solo is awesome on that song, and that sells it. That pushes it over to the cliff for me.
All right. 8 years later. I forgot about that.
We're skipping Lulu for now.
For now.
Yeah.
Correct. 8 years later. That's its own thing. That's on a pedestal of its own.
Yeah, I'm with you.
8 years later, Hardwired to self-destruct.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So for me, the track on this is Atlas Rise.
Great song.
Was that the first single? I don't know. No, it was the third single. And I felt like with this album, they were going in the right direction. You know, it wasn't a huge stylistic change. It was good to get Robert in the band and the writing process and all that. And that's probably the track off this whole record that I return to.
For me, it's Hardwired.
Mm.
First track, 3 minutes and 9 seconds. Just no frills. It rocks. I love it. I genuinely like that song. Now we're back into stuff that I can put myself behind and say I think is actually awesome.
Dig it. Can't wait for the 200
Atlas Rise also. Those are my two favorites.
200 track box set coming with this one.
Long
All
album, though. 77 minutes and 42 seconds. That's a long record.
Not the longest, but it's a long one.
Yeah.
All right. Now we have 72 Seasons. It came out
also
just last
year. Also a long
year.
record, 77 minutes long.
See, these guys love it. When I heard the first single, Lux Eterna, which is not my pick, I was like, okay, we're back in standard tuning because you don't need to tune down to be heavy. And I think Metallica has proven that a million times over. So this one, again, I feel like they're still going in the right direction. They're not looking at shiny things over here and over there and going off the world. But for me, the track is Screaming Suicide.
Okay. For me, it's Lux Eterna.
That's a good one. I mean, that was like 1A, 1B for me, really.
Yeah.
But I like how they were touring behind this record where they're doing these weekend shows. They're not repeating things. I think that really is a Fish influence. Because there's a video of them going around like years ago of them in a practice
get messages
room
about that.
Oh no, there's video and they're like in their jam room playing, and either James or Kirk says, "Oh, did you hear what Fish is doing? They're playing 13 nights at MSG and they're not repeating a song."
Wait, really?
Yeah,
this is real. You're not okay.
Totally real. Okay. And they're like, "Wait, what? They do 13?" You know? So I feel like, well, we don't want to do, or maybe whatever, do 13 nights, but we can do 2. You know, make a big weekend of it, play some stadiums. So this also has their longest original song to date, which is over 11 minutes. The Merciful Fate medley on Garage Inc. is 1 second longer. So those two tracks are the longest in their career. So
that's a lot.
Cool. So that is our quick rundown of all the studio records. All right. Now, shift gears. Let's go to Lulu.
Hell yeah.
Okay. My impression of Lulu, first time I heard it, I kind of thought it was a joke.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, are they messing with us? Is this some kind of very elaborate prank? But it's a difficult record to listen to. It is. But here's my question for you. Well, first of all, tell me what your first impressions are of Lulu.
Same. It's like, I mean, I knew it wasn't a joke, right? Like, it's like they released it.
Yeah.
Lou Reed's not a jokey
He's
guy
not a joker.
like that.
That's right.
And
That's
I
right.
love Lou Reed and the idea. I will say that I remember seeing them. So the first thing that they did with Lou Reed was play Sweet Jane at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I remember seeing that and just being totally disappointed in Lou Reed for having Metallica as his backing band. I did not think it sounded very good. And then to hear now they're going to do an album, it was just like, man, what? Are you kidding me? Why are they doing that? And so when it came out, my first thought was like, this sounds as bad as I made it up to be. But then sort of came around and was like, this is kind of awesome. There's something here. And I think that for me, the juxtaposition of these two totally unlikely sound worlds that Lou Reed creates and Metallica creates, like the juxtaposition of those is so fascinating. And hearing Metallica try and be open to this and create this music with Lou as their front guy, it's fascinating. It's great. And it impresses me that they were so open to try and put themselves out there. And I mean, they're improvising, they're like making feedback, noisy feedback, all this stuff. Like, I don't know if it's always successful, but it's really not about that for me, like aesthetically or musically successful. It's just it's just fun to hear them play these things. Live videos of them playing them are totally cool. But I will say that, like, I hear these songs and I hear Lou in the front and I get, okay, I can get with this one. And then I hear like James do backup and it's a little bit too polished of a, it's James in that voice doing it, that it is this weird juxtaposition, but it's fun to hear the process there. I do think that James probably learned some lessons there. Like, Lou is raw, man. That's the thing. Be raw.
All right. Is this a better Lou Reed record or is this a better Metallica record?
Better Lou Reed record.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think this rates higher in Lou Reed's catalog than in Metallica's catalog.
Yeah, because he sounds like Lou Reed. Metallica doesn't sound like Metallica.
No.
He sounds comfortable doing everything he does. Like he's in his comfort zone.
And this comes in at 87 minutes and 5 seconds. So
is this
if
the
we're
longest?
If we're factoring in this record into the mix, this is Metallica's longest record.
Do you have a favorite song?
No. I view it as one entire massive artistic statement.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm with you.
glad it
I think
exists.
it's a concept album. The View was a single. I like that song. That if pressed, that's my favorite.
Probably, if I had to pick one. But you could tell me any one of these songs was named The View, and I'd be like, okay. I wonder how they named the song Frustration. Or, Junior Dad, 19-minute song. 19 minutes.
That's a lot.
They formed a jam band. They formed an avant-garde jam band.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
what they do.
And that's, right? Like, that's what's so cool. They're open to it. They're like, let's try and do something we truly do not know how to do. I would say I'm most impressed by Lars letting go a little bit and trying to be open-minded.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we did it.
We did it, man.
We got through all of Metallica. So if you want to get at us for the next episode, you can email us at 100guitarists@premierguitar.com. You can call or text 319-423-9734. You can
Thanks
subscribe
again to
to us.
EMG.
Yes, thanks again to EMG. You can use the code EMG100 for 15% off at checkout. And make sure to subscribe to us over on the Spotify or the Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. So,
see you next
week.
week.
Nick, we'll see you next week.